What's up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of Extol We. And this week, Azriela, Jordan, Michael, Tristan, Mark, Sam, Daniel, Paul, Greg, Mia, and David are my extras, and I am the ordinary. Family, I love how in this new era of Extol We, extraordinary life with everyone, I'm discovering more and more people who are imparting extraordinary grace to my life to know the Father more. There's so many people that I have to write them all down to be able to mention them all to you. This week, though, my declaration is I am Batman. If you have no idea why in the world I would be saying that, go and watch this video. But David kicks me off this week in that I spent this amazing time with him and my pastor, Michael, recording this announcement video for our leadership. And that as we were done, I began to celebrate how I had seen this extraordinary expression of God's grace through one of our family members at C3, whose name is Julie. As I shared those insights with them, then David reported to me, Elijah, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your abilities with me. I have no idea how you see grace in other people's life like you do, that tells story about who Jesus is shining through. It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that with me. I was so taken aback because of that grace on my life. I think everybody can do that. But David, as he shared with me, said, no, man, if I looked at Julie's life and the things that she did, I would not have seen everything that you just told me about her life. I would just say, yeah, she's a woman of faith and I greatly appreciate her. But you saw an entire Peter Jackson movie in what she did. That is a superpower, man. And it was so encouraging to my life because I knew that week's video was the declaration of Batman versus Superman. I knew what it was in relation to. All of a sudden, I realized God is on my life. He's empowering me to see purpose and identity and glory within people's lives, to call out their identities and destinies in God. And it was so incredibly beautiful to me then, in that I had a cannonball run up to Great Falls to be with my friend Paul, his family, and to spend time with them and walking through life to encourage them in some things that they're going through. I took off on a Friday, and as I was getting ready to pack up, my little girl Azriela came out to engage me and said, Dad, are you getting ready to take off? Please don't leave before I can say goodbye. Honey, absolutely. I'll tell you before I go. Honey, just please go in the backyard with your brothers and sisters and just wait. I'll come and get you when it's time to go. Let me go with you and make sure that you get to that space. Now, as I was with her and went to put her in the backyard, I looked out our window. The whole backyard is shrouded in shadow. The sun's coming up to the east. Our backyard is to the west. And so the whole backyard is enshrouded in shadow except for one spot that is being brightly bathed in light. I thought about it for just a second. It's bouncing off reflection from my neighbor's house. But I asked Azzy girl, look at the backyard. What do you see? She looked around and said, the backyard's covered in shadow. That's right, baby girl, except for that one spot. Why is there light in that one spot in the shadow? Her face was priceless. I went from I know the answers to, oh my word, what's going on? As she looked at it, she walked towards it and put her hand out to wave it, and then saw her shadow fall in the middle of the light, and then went immediately to her shadow, crouched down, and then covered her eyes and said, Dad, the light is reflecting off a window on that house. I said, oh, honey, good job. You're such an intelligent, observant girl. How did you figure that out? She said, it was easy, Dad. You just look at the light, see where it's shining, and if you go and you crouch in the light, you can see exactly where the light is coming from. I'm just gonna leave that with you. I think the insight about what that is speaking to is probably manifestly apparent. But it was such an encouragement to my heart that as I headed out the front door, I did so with so much joy, with so much hope, with so much prophetic declaration from my little prophetess. Oh my goodness, jumped in my car, started rocketing down the road, and just began to pray and to ask God for his blessing, his insight, just communing in him with prayer. And as I did, so grateful for all of the men in my church I reached out to cover me in prayer, to give me open fire on the target of where I was heading to. And I was just so encouraged with the covering of men of righteousness who were covering my life in prayer. As I was driving down the road, just celebrating God and his goodness, God all of a sudden reminds me, hey, Elijah, I gave you a prophetic word for this moment 3.5 years ago in the past. Family, my video of Batman versus Superman, the central verse in that video is from Acts chapter 10, starting in verse 37. It says, you know what has happened throughout the province of Judea, beginning in Galilee after the baptism that John preached, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and power, and how he went around doing good and healing all who were under the power of the devil, because God was with him. God then began to speak to my heart, Elijah, this is you. Like, you know how I have anointed you, Elijah of Bozeman, with the Holy Spirit and power, and how you are going around doing good and healing all who are under the power of the devil, because I am with you. Now, as God began to speak that to my life, the freshly spoken word by the power of his Holy Spirit, immediately my friend Daniel then was brought to my remembrance. It was so much joy in that he has been leading me in this grace of his life to awaken a mature awareness of the fact that God is in us, moving through life, that in him we live and move and have our very being. And as we see his actions and we do what he is doing, we are his representation in the earth to release the fullness of his power as worship and glory before him. I was so overwhelmed in these things. I began to then pray and ask God out of Isaiah 50 verse 4, the sovereign Lord has given me a well-instructed tongue to know the word that sustains the weary. He awakens me morning by morning, wakens my ear to listen as one who's being instructed. I began to just press in and say, Father, yes, you have given me an instructed tongue. Give me more words to speak, to instruct and to encourage the hearts of those who are weary. I began to then pray through the entire chapter of Isaiah 50. And we got down to the very last two verses. Oh, it says, who among you fears the Lord and obeys the word of his servant? Let the one who walks in the dark, who has no light, trust in the name of the Lord and rely on their God. Get in the light, look where it's shining from. But now, all you who light their own fires and provide themselves with flaming torches, go walk in the light of your fires and the torches that you've set ablaze. This is what you shall receive from my hand. You will lie down in torment. Family, as I drove along then, God's encouraged my life. Elijah, you're walking into things that you have no idea how to do. Son, they're way beyond your pay grade, and you're walking in the dark with me. Do not rely on your own understanding. Do not light the torches of your own fires. Lay down and rest with me, and I will provide you with light. Friends, it was so beautiful. Rolling into Great Falls, I got to meet with my friend Paul and hang out. It was such a beautiful time to see my friend. We hadn't seen each other for a while. It was such a joyous time of celebrating one another and our friendship and serving one another in love. As we ended our time together, that I then engaged with his dad who was there, and he said, hey man, you should come and stay with us. Like, you can stretch out on the floor, stay warm. I said, no, I've packed my sleeping bag I'm just gonna sleep in the back of my car. Now, I was excited to see if my improvements on my car camping were gonna be better than the last time that I tried it. The first time I tried sleeping in the back of my car, I was not prepared, had a horrible night's sleep. Tricked me once, shame on you. Tricked me twice, shame on me. I'd come prepared. I was interested to just see if I could sleep in the back of my car comfortably, have an adventure. But there was this moving in my heart of the Holy Spirit of go sleep down by the river. Now, as I engaged my friends, and they kept inviting me, no, come and stay with us. You're gonna be super cold. You're gonna be uncomfortable. Just come with us. There's just this persistent voice of the Spirit go sleep down by the river. I stayed strong in it, jumped in my car, and then drove to find the river in Great Falls. And granted, it took me a while to find it because I was being a total man and didn't type it into my GPS because I knew I could find it and it took forever. Once I found the river, I pulled into a parking spot that was out looking over the water. Pulled in forward, jerked the e-brake, turned off the car, and as soon as I did, God said, no, back your car in and sleep in the reverse position. Great, God. Yeah, all right. It's kind of late. I'd like to go to sleep, but I will obey. I pulled back out, turned the car around, and backed into my parking spot. As I got all of my stuff laid out, laid down to go to sleep, I rolled over onto my right side and looked out of the passenger driver's side window. And there, right through my window, across the river, was the brightness of 2 stacks burning brightly on a refinery all night long. Family, it was so beautiful then as I slept throughout the night that every time that I would wake up, that God had a prophetic insight for me of his goodness and his nature, that his righteousness rolls on like a mighty river, that when the enemy comes in, like a flood, the Lord raises up a standard over his people, that he's refining us through trials, and that we can consider those as pure joy because we're being grown into maturity, completeness, and wholeness, and that his throne's established on the pillars of righteousness and justice, and that they're burning brightly in the midst of the night, and that all of the things that are happening through our refining are then the fuel that God burns away and sets us free, and Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego, and letting go our bonds and shaming Nebuchadnezzar and the devil in darkness. And it's a very busy night, but every time I wake up, God would give me a prophetic insight from the light that was shining in the night, and that I would then go back to sleep, and then I was interceding and praying in the night out of those prophetic revelations in my dreams. I woke up in the morning and was so incredibly encouraged. I was filled with hope that I had built myself up in the Lord through the power of his Holy Spirit, and was so strengthened in joy to then walk out then in that day ministering to my friends and serving them in love. As a result of then that day, that then the question came, Elijah, would you jump in a rental car, drive to Billings, get our stuff for us, and then turn around and bring that back for us so that we can have our own things, spend less money on rental equipment, and be more sustainable here? Absolutely, it's my pleasure. Jumped in the rental car, bombed over to Billings, and my cousin Josiah can also be part of my extra amongst the ordinary. Picked me up, took me to the family's house, packed up all their things, and then cannonballed right back to Great Falls. As I did, I passed the car on the side of the road, saw someone standing in front of it with the hood up, shining their light into the engine, roared right past them, said, I don't have time to stop and help another person. I'm on a mission. I'm heading for my friends, but God says, you should stop and connect with them. I got about 2-3 miles back down the road because I was like, God, I can't be interrupted. I'm focused. I'm helping my friends. I can't stop and help everybody. But God said, you know how Elijah was anointed with the Holy Spirit, going about doing good and healing all who are under the power of the devil because God was with him. I turned around, went back, got out of my car, and met Greg and Mia. Their car was broken down. They were heading from Wyoming back to Edmonton, Canada. There's no service in the area, and they needed somebody to go and to call them a tow truck. As I engaged all of that with them, there was this heavy prompting of asking, is there anything that I can pray for you for? Found out that there were some physical things that they needed prayer for. Asked if I could pray for those things. Pressed in, I blessed them in the Father's goodness, spoke healing to their life, jumped in my car, bounced down the road. Again, with so much joy in this manifest expression, God sending me forth to do good to all who are oppressed of the devil and to know of his joy that was with me. I got back, dropped the car off to my friends, and then began to head back to Bozeman. I was heading back on a Sunday morning. I wanted to get back to Sunday services to be with my biological family because I missed them, but to be with my spiritual family because I was so messed up in joy. I had to be amidst God's people, worshiping our Father in his presence. And the 3 hours then driving back from Great Falls to Bozeman, that I prophesied to my windshield the entire time about The joy of the Lord. Where is the joy of the Lord from? What is his strength? What does his strength do in us? What is our experience? What does joy do in our surrounding environment? Now it's just so hopped up on joy. As I came in then towards Manhattan, I saw I was going to be late to service. I was so bummed that I wasn't going to be there at the beginning. I remembered, I can pull up the live feed on YouTube and start watching it and catch the beginning, and then merge into that time in person. Pull up the live feed, and the title of that week's sermon from my pastor David was Joy, Your Strength. By the time I rolled into service, guys, my joy levels had gone from a high 10 to 11 billion. Walked through the front door, I was just hugging everyone. I love you. I love you. I love your shoes. I love your face. I love your hat. You get over here. Hugs for you. Family, so incredibly blessed by seeing how God had sent me out with joy. They will go forth in joy and be led forth by peace. That peace is standing out in the storm, saying, come to be with me where I am. Release my peace with me and come out to me with joy, which is your strength, Elijah, and that my spirit is upon you, and that you have an entire community of people sending you out with prophetic insight to go into the darkness, to see the light, go stand in the light, see what the Father is doing. There is fire coming forth from people who are praying into, out of great righteousness, powerful, effective prayers to build up my life and impart grace as I'm moving down the highway, enjoying the joy of the Lord. And that as a result of going out to then minister to my friends, that I then was able to find weary travels who were sojourning across countries to merge with them, to then release the hope and the healing and the joy of the Lord to their lives in the midst of difficult circumstances. Family, you know how Jesus of Nazareth was anointed with the Holy Spirit and went about doing good to everyone and healing all those who were under the power of the devil because God was with him. I am Batman. I'm just a man. I don't have any special superpowers, and apart from Jesus, I can do nothing. Encourage yourself in this fact that with Jesus, all things are possible. Aside from him, you can do nothing. But if you are doing nothing, it's most assuredly aside from Christ. That the beauty of Jesus' life is that he showed us what a man who was anointed with the Holy Spirit and surrendered under God's power could accomplish because God was with him. And Jesus' declaration over our lives is that you will do the works that I have been doing. That Jesus took the fullness of his faithfulness before the Father to do everything that the Father had asked him to do. And he gifted us his success and righteousness as a free gift to come to our lives. Our success is an inheritance of Christ's authority in us to respond with his ability. Someone knit that on a pillow. But then Jesus then also declared over us as well, you will do greater. Family, we are an entire people of Batmans that is within our capacity to go about anointed with the Holy Spirit to do good to everyone and to heal those who are under the oppression of darkness because God is with us. My encouragement to you is that wherever you are in your life, that you would not fall back because of fear, because of the things that are beyond your understanding, that you don't know how to walk in those things, that they're shrouded in darkness, that you would walk forward by faith, looking for the light that is being shown into the darkness, that you would see that light go squat in the light, look backwards to where the glory of the Father's face of favor is shining from, to impart grace, favor, peace, blessing in the midst of dark situations. Receive that grace by the power of the Spirit, and then impart that to those that you come into contact with as you move about through life, doing good to all, healing those who are under the oppression of the devil, because God is with you. If you subscribe to what we are doing, then hit the button, hit it, and then get it. Hit the bell as well so you get notified with the new content. And if you loved this video, you didn't just like it, then hit the thumbs down button. I pray blessings on our lives together. I love you guys lots, and I will see you in the next video.